We all know Danganronpa 3 isn't exactly the most well-liked entry the series has seen, but even if it was amazing, it still would have suffered greatly from some of its most integral mistakes and issues. It could have been the fucking zenith of the medium and the second coming of Christ himself, but it wouldn't have saved it from its grim fate. So, rather than being ominous and vague, let's talk about why the most controversial entry in this franchise was doomed from the moment it was conceived in Spike Chunsoft's womb. That's a fucking stupid metaphor, but anyway. Reason number 1, it is an anime. I know that sounds stupid, but hear me out. There are means and reasons for why the creative and leadership team decided on formatting this story in the way they did, but regardless of how quote-unquote integral this story being an anime is to it making sense, that does not change the fact this was a bad decision on all accounts. I appreciate Danganronpa has delved into other forms of media in the past, and with some great success. Danganronpa 0, the Junko-focused origin story, is a novel and considered a mainline entry, to my knowledge, in some areas of the world. Now, most people in the West couldn't give two shits about it, but that's mostly due to it not being officially released here. There was also the original Danganronpa anime that was quite successful. It condensed the story down to fucking 12 episodes, but it's fine for what it is. Good supplementary media, if nothing else. However, despite all that being said, and Danganronpa 3 having found relative success, all things considered, look at the reputation it has now. How many people not only have seen this anime, but actually enjoyed it? So many people who get into this series don't even realise this thing fucking exists, and you know why? Because it's an anime in a visual novel franchise. Now, I think delving into other forms of media for spin-offs and prequels and whatnot and side stories is really cool. It helps try something new. But how many times have you seen a franchise make one of its core entries, the finale, mind you, a completely different form of media from every fucking other thing in the same series? Probably never, right? Can you think of any examples? And can you think of times where it was done well and people liked it? That's why this was a stupid fucking decision, regardless of the anime's actual perceived quality. Like I said, it could be the best thing in the world, but this would have still been a stupid decision. I get that they're both visual medias, okay? So it's not too egregious, but still, games and shows are too different for you to just decide to make your final mainline entry a completely different form of media. It was stupid, and it's the biggest reason this entry was doomed to be completely ignored and forgotten from its inception. Reason number 2, it released way too close to V3. Whose fucking decision was it to release this anime like half a year before the next game in the series would release? Okay, surely anyone with half a brain can sit down and tell you you'll be taking attention away from one of those entries by releasing them so close, right? And guess what? That's kind of what happened. There was not enough room for both of these entries to breathe. They were actively announced and being promoted at the exact same time, very deliberately. And instead of doing one first, and then one later. I think that would have worked better, but that's not what they did. And based on the fact there's a handful of CGs that look a little silly in V3, it's evident that this was a very stupid choice, and ultimately hurt both entries rather than just hurting the 3 anime. Third reason is the confusing structure. Okay, I have no issue with Danganronpa 3 being told in 2 separate arcs, but it definitely made things confusing. To this day, people always ask what order they're supposed to watch this show in, and to be honest, it doesn't even fucking matter that much, because the arcs don't directly link to one another nearly as much as this deliberate structural decision would have you think. You can just get away with watching each arc one after the other, and the story will make sense, essentially, all the way, as it would by just watching it the correct way. It doesn't really matter that much. It matters slightly, but not enough to really be a big deal. Obviously, watching one episode from each arc after the next is marginally better for making the story make sense, and it will probably make it easier to understand, but it's absolutely not a crucial thing, making the whole confusion and structure feel even stupider because of the fact that it's not entirely necessary. And the final reason why this anime was doomed from the moment it set foot into existence: not enough focus on the new characters. Okay, I get this is kind of delving deeper into like what the quality of the show actually is, but this was kind of an issue from the get-go. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure the new characters in Danganronpa 3 can be great at times, and if you dig deep enough, I'm sure they're just as interesting as the characters in the games. But in my experience, and many other people's, not enough focus is placed on them for us to care. I don't even remember most of their names, okay? I think Munakata was a really cool character and a really cool villain. I thought he was super interesting. He had W aura, as we say. Tengen was okay, not that interesting, but he was fine. That guy with the bull head, he was he was funny, even though he died like straight away, but he had aura, I guess. Chisa was fine, nothing special, but she gets the job done. She's one of the better new characters, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but he's the one who... I don't remember, he's got like the longer hair or something, I don't fucking know. But anyway, like I said, many people don't care about most of these characters. There's not enough focus placed on them for us to care. Thing is, the Danganronpa games are 20 to 40 hours, okay? The first game's like 20, second game's like 30, third game's like 40, okay? Whereas the Danganronpa 3 anime is like 6, maybe 7 at best hours total. 6, 7. Sure, the time is used differently, it's not the same thing, that's why it's a different form of media. So you can't strictly measure it by, oh, well, this is only 6 hours and this is 40. It's not really fair to do it like that, but it's partially relevant, okay? But you get the point I'm making. Not to mention, most of the new characters are in Future Arc primarily, which, well, is 3 to 4 hours total, because there's 12 episodes in each of the arcs. And, like I said, not enough focus is placed on these new characters for me to actually care about them. So, in conclusion, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that while Danganronpa 3 wasn't a great anime, in my opinion, that doesn't really matter because, well, it would have failed regardless of how good it was. It could be the next Attack on Titan and it still would have suffered greatly. Maybe not as much, well no, definitely not as much, but it still would have suffered because of the weird decisions that they made when making this thing. If it were up to me, I would have made Danganronpa 3 a game, not an anime. And I know some people are like, oh, well, it wouldn't work as a game. Why though? I see people make that argument, I do, and I'm not making fun of those people, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I never see any elaboration. So if anyone wants to elaborate in the comments on that, I'm more than welcome to be hearing that. I'm not particularly massively versed on all the things about Danganronpa 3. I've only seen it once, and I didn't really like it, so it didn't stick in my mind for very long, if that makes sense. But, yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribing down below, and I will see you all later. Peace out.